Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, Spina Bifida Guide to Hope. My name is Leilani, and today I will be sharing a story time. Now, last video I had been talking about UTIs, and I briefly mentioned that I did have a UTI at one point that landed me, unfortunately, in the hospital. And that is going to be what my story time is today. Now, this happened back in February of this year, about mid-February. I hadn't been sick or had a UTI in a long while. I was feeling completely fine, completely normal, completely myself at the time that this event unfortunately unfolded. So like I said, it was about mid-February. It was the weekend. I do remember it was a Sunday. That Sunday, I had felt completely fine. I didn't have any feeling of sickness or any headaches or just feeling under the weather in general. I felt completely fine, completely myself. That night, Sunday night, I started to get kind of like a soreness in my throat, so I thought maybe I was coming down with a little bit of a cold and I wanted to catch it early, so I did take NyQuil before going to bed. I went to bed and it was about, I want to say 5 in the morning, and I had felt like I needed to go to the bathroom at this time. So I, of course, got up and went to the bathroom. Again, everything was normal, everything was fine. I didn't have any symptoms of a UTI when I cathed. I didn't feel any stinging, any burning. I didn't see anything cloudy about my urine. I didn't smell anything funky. It was just completely normal. And after, of course, I went to the bathroom, I washed my hands. Now, this is where the problem started. When I was washing my hands, I kind of started feeling a little lightheaded. So I washed my hands, I dried my hands, and after drying my hands, all of a sudden, I felt like I was going to lose consciousness. So I got really, really frightened, and I called out for my mom, and she came, of course, rushing into the bathroom. And at this point, I was basically passing out. So I don't really remember much of what happened because I was kind of in and out of consciousness in a sense. So I do remember my parents, of course, in the bathroom with me. Obviously something isn't right, so they thought maybe I was running a really high fever. So they took my pajamas and, stripped me down to my underwear and my bra, and we have a tile floor. So they laid me down on the tile floor because it's cold. So I was laying there and I didn't fully pass out. I was still kind of conscious, but at the same time out of it, if that makes any sense. And again, this happened within a matter of literally seconds. I was washing my hands, I felt fine, and then all of a sudden this happened to me. So I'm laying on the floor of the bathroom, and my parents kind of course, are really concerned and kind of freaking out. And they asked me, do you feel like you need an ambulance? And of course I'm coherent enough to respond. I'm like, yeah, I feel like I do. So they call the ambulance and we wait for the ambulance to arrive. At this time, my parents had put my pajamas back on me and they sat me down on our sofa and they put a blanket on me, and I still at this time was feeling kind of lightheaded, but I wasn't feeling like I was gonna pass out. So the ambulance had arrived. They take me into the ambulance. My mother comes with me into the ambulance and we get there to the emergency room. At this time, I am more conscious. As time is going forward, I'm gaining more consciousness and feeling kind of better. The main doctor had come in and they were saying to me that it does happen where some people, they get up really quickly from bed after being asleep and they go to the bathroom, and when they get up they feel lightheaded. So they thought that that's really kind of what happened to me, and since I was pretty okay when I was in the emergency room, they didn't really think anything of it at the time. So they were actually going to discharge me, but all of a sudden they had connected me to a heart monitor, and I had all these wires and everything, and all of a sudden this heart monitor started going off, and my mom was with me, so she looked at the heart monitor and was like, what's going on? My heart rate was really, really high. So we called in the doctor and they were like, yeah, that's not good at all, and basically said, we're gonna keep you. So I ended up staying at the hospital for 4 whole days. And during these 4 days, every day they collected about 4 to 5 vials of my blood. They kept me connected to IV, and I went through about 3 to 4 IV bags in a day. So they really were trying to like flush out whatever was in my system. And they kept me for so long, these 4 days, because when they would check my blood pressure and my heart rate was extremely high. It went to the highest it went to, I believe, if I remember correctly, was 300, which I'm a small girl, and that's just not, I think, even okay for an average sized person to have a 300 heart rate. And on top of the high heart rate, I had an extremely low blood pressure. So when I would sit up or I would try and stand up, because they did want me walking around, they didn't want me to stay laying in bed, I would get really lightheaded as soon as I sat up. So that's kind of mainly why they kept me, because they, of course, didn't want to release me with such a high heart rate and a low blood pressure, because that, of course, isn't safe. And finally, we were told that I did in fact have a UTI. So while I was in the hospital for these 4 days, on top of the IV, they were giving me antibiotic through IV and eventually through pill form for the UTI that I had. And the IV was just saline. They were kind of flushing out my bloodstream, and come to find out, that the reason for them flushing out my bloodstream and for them collecting all those vials of blood, like I said, they were collecting about 4 vials to 5 vials a day, it was because I had sepsis. And for those who do not know what sepsis is, it's an infection, a bacterial infection in the bloodstream. It's extremely dangerous. Yes, you can die from this, unfortunately. So that in itself is a very scary thought for me, to think that I had sepsis. I had something that I could have, if not caught in time, and if I didn't go to the hospital at the time that I did when what happened to me happened, I could have possibly died. And that's a really scary thought for me to think about. And the reason behind my UTI and behind the sepsis is because, well, the UTI was caused because I, at the time, did not like drinking water. I would drink soda, I would drink juice, I would drink iced tea. I was not a fan of really drinking a lot of water. So that definitely played a part in me getting a UTI. My UTI not only was created because I wasn't drinking enough water, but it was also created because I was not on top of my bowel program. I wasn't doing my bowel program the way that I am supposed to do it. And I was slacking off on my bowel program, and really I was so constipated and backed up that bacteria from my poop got into my bloodstream and created the sepsis. So that basically is why I got a UTI in the first place, and why eventually it turned into sepsis. This literally happened within a blink of an eye. It happened so fast and so quick that I can't even explain to you how that happened, in the sense of why I didn't have any symptoms. I don't know why I didn't have symptoms, but that's unfortunately how it happened. My heart rate was back to normal, my blood pressure was back to normal by the 4th day in the hospital. So they, of course, didn't feel the need to really keep me anymore. We found out what was going on. They gave me medication for it, antibiotics, to treat my UTI. I did not leave the hospital with bacteria still in my blood. They made sure that the IV flushed that completely out of my system and out of my bloodstream. So my blood, by the time that I was discharged, was completely clean from bacteria, thank goodness. After that experience, I was basically scared straight. I now, since then, have, all I really drink is water. I do still drink sodas, and I drink iced tea, and I drink juice, but I try my best to kind of have that in moderation, and not really like day in and day out have those beverages. I mostly try my best to drink water every day as much as I possibly can. And on top of drinking water, I learned that I need to stay on top of my bowel program as best that I can, and I really need to take the time out to do my bowel program properly, because if not, this situation can happen. And you know, it was a scary experience. It wasn't fun at all. It was very, very frightening. I didn't know what was happening to my body at the time. It just hit me like a ton of bricks within seconds. It happened. Literally overnight. I went to bed fine, and I woke up and this happened. Spina bifida, disability or not, cathing or not, please, no matter what, take care of your bodies. Please make sure you hydrate yourself with water as best that you can. Please make sure that if you are on a bowel program, that you do it properly and you do it the way that your doctor has told you to do it. Because if not, this can happen. I did not expect for this to happen to me. I never experienced something so frightening, in the sense of I literally had a bacterial infection in my bloodstream that could have killed me. So that thought in itself, it's just unbelievable to think about. And a disclaimer, I am not by any means a doctor, so please don't just take my advice. I am only strictly talking about my personal experience and the scary thing that happened to me, unfortunately. So that is my story about the time that I got a UTI and it turned into sepsis. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and share this video. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. It's greatly appreciated. And I will see you guys next week. Bye!